Does your paycheck seem to just magically vanish? Do you find yourself balling out every single weekend and then only being able to spend $1 for food throughout the rest of the week? If this is you, stick around and we're going to talk about how to budget, what's the anti-budget, and how to get your money up. It's Crystal with the Cash Compass. Okay, so I know a lot of people can feel me when I say this, but it's very hard to maintain a budget. There's so much different things that are tempting us, like fancy cars and nice expensive dinners and boat parties. But honestly, we have to get a grip of reality and kind of define what kind of life do we want. Do we want to struggle and drag by day to day, or do we want to be comfortable? Do you want to call the shots in your life, or do you want to be a victim and a slave to your debt? I hope you pick the first one. Let's talk about some strategies and some things you can develop to help you manage your money better and to pay down your expenses. First, you cannot budget if you don't know how much you make and how much you spend. You have to write down all your expenses, not only what the expense is, when is it due, and how much is due every single month. What's important first is to write your fixed expenses. These are things that typically won't change month over month. Your rent, your credit card payments, cable, phone, things of that nature. You'll know they're gonna come in every single month at the same exact day, and you know that for the most part they should be pretty much the same price month after month. Now let's talk about the variable expenses. Your gas, the food you eat, the clothes you have to buy, toiletries. You have to calculate how much you think you spend. Actually, I think it would be fun if you write down what you think you spend and then actually track it and see what you actually spend. You may be afraid. Once you have the estimations down, use some sort of app to help you track. Personally, I like using the Mint app. It's really great at not only writing your budgets, but tracking them down. And it has a really great financial overview of all your expenses, all your credit cards, every single transaction that you're making on these cards once you link up all these accounts. So it's a great way to have a full financial picture of your life without having to fly around to a million different websites like I used to do. Now, some people feel like it's better for them to have the money in cash, and personally I've never understood that. Typically I prefer to pay on a card just because you literally can track everything down, whereas cash you may lose it and you may spend it and not even necessarily remember what you spent it on. So if you are one of those people who prefer the cash method, then make sure you bring that little old school checkbook with you and write down literally what you're spending as you finish spending. Don't say you'll remember, because you won't. So once you've identified your fixed expenses and once you've estimated and started to track your variable expenses, you'll have a better idea of where your money is going and how to adjust. Like I mentioned before, not only will Mint, and this is not sponsored, obviously I have like 2 followers, but I like Mint because it literally bothers you and sends you emails when you've overspent on a certain category that you typically would normally not spend in. And you can even drill down to specific merchants. So before I was even using this app, I was spending over $100 at Starbucks. Where did I get that money from? It definitely helps put things into perspective, and it's almost a shock because I did not realize I was spending so much money on something that, while I do love, is not a necessity. Let's be real. But being able to see where your money is going will definitely make you think twice before spending, and that in and of itself will help you manage your expenses much better. So now what I personally like doing is I like to separate my accounts and automate everything. So I have one card for all my fixed expenses, and then I have a separate card for my variable expenses. And when I have my paycheck, I make sure that enough money plus a little bit of a buffer just in case gets put into one account. Some gets thrown into my savings, of course, and then the rest gets put into another account. That way I know I can swipe this card till I'm broke. Not really, but if I were to do that, I'd still have lights, I'll still have a place to live, and I'll still have Wi-Fi. Doing that gives you a peace of mind because you don't have to calculate and worry about, oh man, I don't have enough money, I spent too much, now I have to go hustle somebody for some cash. You know comfortably, this is the money that I can spend. And the reason why I like to put my variable expenses in another one is because I can have a little bit more control over it. So obviously, while I would like to eat every single day, at least I know that I could probably cook something as opposed to eating out. You have more control over of what you do with that money, so it's very important to keep them separated and automate that. Automate your savings. Don't trust yourself to just put the money in the savings account yourself, because you probably won't do it. Let's face it. I'm the same way, okay? I'm not judging you. It's really important to just make sure it gets done before you even see the money. You don't even feel it. then you'll eventually reach a point where it's like you don't even remember about it. It's just being set, and you set it and you forget it. Then you can later use that money to invest and double up. Do not be afraid of auto savings and auto pay. I've spoke to so many people who say, oh, I'm not gonna auto pay. And I'm just like, why? Do you want your lights cut off? Do you not want somewhere to live? Don't let me get up. It's a little bit of a weird thing to me, because it's like you signed up for these expenses, so why not pay them automatically? It's one less thing you have to worry about. You know you're gonna have to pay it eventually. Make sure you just have a better control of your money so that when it does come on the due date, you're not afraid. Typically, people who say that are probably not the best with their money, because if you've reached a point where you know that no matter what you can cover all your bills, you wouldn't be too bothered about having auto pay. If you disagree, let me know below. It's definitely a peace of mind for me, because I know at the end of the month or every 2 weeks, actually I budget frequently, but periodically I'll check and make sure, okay, this seems like it's a little bit too high, what are we missing? Make sure everything has come out, and that's it. So like I just said, it's also very important to budget frequently. You can't just have the budget, set it up, okay, yeah, I make X amount and Y is coming out and that's it. No, that ain't how you do it. I personally check my budget, I would say every 2 to 3 days, and especially after a weekend where I feel like I've spent a lot of money, it just gives you a reset. It allows you to go back and see, okay, I spent a little bit much this week, so I'm gonna cut back this next week, and it constantly gives you the idea of how to be financially responsible. If you're not checking your budget, it's very likely to get out of hand. Kind of like your kids, when you know they're too quiet, you say, what you up to? Same thing with your budget. Of course, your card company's not gonna tell you you're spending too much. They're gonna be real hush. You have to go check up on it. So this is very important, because this is the foundation to generational wealth, personal financial independence, financial freedom, all that good stuff. If you cannot track your budget, you will never be able to reach a point where you are financially wealthy. And I say that with confidence. If you can't manage $1,000, how are you going to manage $100,000? It won't matter how much more you make. You're always going to spend more. And maybe you've already experienced that. Maybe you've gotten raises every single year and you're still feeling like you're living paycheck to paycheck. You still don't have anything really saved up. That's an indication that you need to start budgeting. And eventually you'll reach a point where you've budgeted, it's practically second nature to you now. And then we can discuss the anti-budget.